Hello everybody and welcome back to another video game review with the TheMKninja. With the insane trilogy inching ever closer, and the excitement rising between all the Crash fans, I felt like just revisiting the original Crash Bandicoot Naughty Dog trilogy would be a great selection of games to review, since they had quite the impact on my gaming childhood. I mean, look at this face, it's so doofy, how could you not love it? Let's begin! Crash Bandicoot 1. Such a nostalgic game. It was quite the ambitious one too, going up against Nintendo, especially with its very aggressive advertising. Naughty Dog definitely wanted Crash to make an impact, and he most certainly did. When you look at the PlayStation 1, it's practically impossible to disregard how many units of this beautiful baby were sold because of Crash Bandicoot. He was crazy, zany, and he went up against Mario and Sonic. And it even kind of worked. The world was graced with Crash Bandicoot 1 in 1996, and would end up selling 6.8 million units. But who cares about all that technical stuff? Let's get to the first level. Well, wait, what's the story again? Well, for some reason, the story comes off as kind of an afterthought in this game, since it's an optional cutscene that plays if you sit at the title screen for too long. It shows two evil scientists named Neocortex and Embryo, creating animal slaves to take over the world. Crash was supposed to be the general, but he was a failure, he escaped, and they kidnapped Pamela Anderson's furry cousin, Tana, Crash's girlfriend. So you gotta save those titties, I mean your girlfriend. Yeah, okay. Let's do this! Fortunately, if you've never played Crash Bandicoot before, the game's control scheme is incredibly simple, practically like an old arcade game. All you can do is run, jump, and attack. Pretty easy. Unfortunately, Crash's controls are noticeably stiff, which isn't always a problem, but it becomes noticeable in a lot of later, more difficult levels. Speaking of levels, the level themes are, in my opinion, one of the stronger aspects of the game, because it feels like you're traveling through a world instead of just stages, which benefits from having an overworld, where you travel across the 3 islands to get to Cortex. It's a nice aesthetic, but it makes going from one island to the other a little tedious. Even though it's been done before in other games, the idea of going from lush and beautiful nature to harsh and mechanical factories is a really cool progression, and it works very well here. It's also nice how oftentimes in levels you can see Cortex's castle looming in the distance, as your destination gets closer and closer. It's very nice and provides some atmosphere. And the levels are designed quite well, even though some of them are pretty difficult. Crash 1 is infamous for its difficulty, and a lot of this comes from its archaic saving system, which is easily its biggest problem. You can't save normally, like most other games. Instead, you need to go to either a Tana bonus section by collecting 3 Tana tokens, which are usually in crates, or you need to get a gem. What's a gem? It's the big collectible of the game that you need for 100% completion. You get them by breaking every crate in a level, without dying. Yep, you heard that correctly, you need to perfect a level completely to get the gem. Luckily, from what we've heard, this won't be the case for the remake, as you just need to break the crates like you do in the other games. But this is the reason why completing this game is so tear your balls off frustrating. Along with that aspect, some of the box placements and hidden pathways in specific levels are placed in very dickish ways, making completing the game a lot more difficult than it really needs to be. The other aspects of the game are its music and its bosses. Only 3 bosses are really worth a damn, with them being Cortex, Brio, and Koala Kong. The others are either way too boring or too easy. The music is pretty atmospheric and kind of catchy, and there are definitely some nice tunes within its soundtrack, so that's quite nice. Crash Bandicoot 1 is flawed but fun, and even though I see why people usually talk more about 2 and 3 in terms of the original trilogy, the first game is still pretty enjoyable, and I like it. It gets a 7 out of 10. Next, we have Crash Bandicoot 2: Cortex Strikes Back. which takes place right after the first game, right after you kick Cortex's ass and send him falling to his doom. But he lands in a cave perfectly unscathed, and finds a new source of power to collect. Power crystals. But he needs help, and with all his minions gone, he needs to contact the only other one who can get them. Crash. So it's up to Crash, being the lovable moron he is, to fall for Cortex's obvious lies, and collect the power crystals, pretty much against his own will. This time around, you'll notice a few big changes right away. 1. Crash controls a lot smoother, which is a very nice touch. It no longer feels too heavy. 2. The level select is incredibly different, now consisting of warp portals in a warp room, which makes level selection faster, though it takes away a bit of the atmosphere. And 3. The saving system has been heavily improved, as you can now save in the warp room. Oh, thank the Lord! And by Lord, I mean Naughty Dog. Now, one thing that is lost, like I said, is the sense of world, except in one part, which I'll get to later, but it's made up for by a new variety of levels to play, as well as much nicer graphics that still kind of hold up today. They look pretty great. The main collectible of the game is the Power Crystal, with 1 in each level, and they're not really hidden, so it's pretty easy to find them. The other collectible is the Returning Gem, which are once again collected by breaking all of the crates. But like I said before, in this game and the one next, you can die as many times as you want and still get the gem, definitely making the experience of completing the game a lot more enjoyable than the first one. There are also special colored gems that are gotten through secret areas that connect the levels together, which is what I meant by it feels kind of like a world, as the levels are kind of connected. Or you can also find them through admittedly very dumb little secrets, like not breaking all of the boxes in the first level. That's a dick move, and there are a few of these dick moves. A lot of these secrets have little hints that can lead you to explore and experiment, but sometimes the hints are a little too subtle to really pick up on, especially for kids. So unless you either have the internet, can easily pick up on tiny details, or just remember the game like the back of your hand, getting the colored gems might be a tad bit frustrating because you don't know where to find them. Even I sometimes forget how to get them. Speaking of frustrating, even though Cortex Strike Back is definitely easier than its predecessor, there are still a few levels that are pretty damn difficult. The most noteworthy example being Cold Hard Crash. And trust me, they can definitely bring the pain. Such bad memories. Oh god. The bosses are back, and Naughty Dog has definitely improved its boss-making prowess, because some of these are pretty fun, like Tiny in Engine, and Ripperoo is a much better boss battle. But the final boss fight against Cortex is pretty much the worst battle in the entire series. So that's upsetting. And the music is also really great. It's actually my favorite soundtrack in the trilogy. It goes for more catchy and infectious beats instead of the atmospheric or ambient ones of the first game, which is kind of a nice touch and I prefer that. Crash Bandicoot 2 Cortex Strikes Back is a fantastic sequel, improving almost every aspect of the first game and altogether delivers a package that many people consider to be one of the best platformers ever, especially on the PlayStation 1, and I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped takes place immediately after 2, when the space station is destroyed and falls back to Earth, breaking open a seal to what is revealed as the brother of Aku Aku, the mask that can give you an extra hit point for the last 2 games. His brother, Uka Uka, was the one commanding Cortex the whole time, and he's pissed. But he gives Cortex one last chance, bringing in a new guy, N-Trophy, to travel through time and get the crystals during their creation once again. And once again, Crash has to collect those shiny purple crystals first. Crash has returned to the format of having warp portals within a warp room. This time, however, it's more efficient and all taking place on one level, but it has a little less personality put into it. But that's offset by the amazing warp room theme. It's fantastic. It always puts me in a good mood. And now, we get to travel through time! The game plays pretty similarly to Cortex Strikes Back using the same engine, but with some added bonuses. First of all, there are new vehicles. Coco gets a jet ski and rides a tiger on the Great Wall of China as it's being built. And Crash gets a little baby T-Rex, gets to swim underwater, and rides a motorcycle. And all of these control schemes are good. They have some issues, but they're pretty smooth for the most part. Crash also gets power-ups when he defeats a boss, Mega Man style, ranging from standard platforming things like a double jump to strange ones like a fruit bazooka and a tornado spin. They allow for great new platforming challenges, and give future levels new ways to be designed so it feels more like progression. The gems and crystals have returned, and for the most part they act pretty much the same, though now without a lot of the hidden pathways. Instead they're treated just a bit differently. Because there is a new collectible, the Time Relic. Yep, we got time trials. Generally these can be considered like one of the things to complain about for this game, but I really enjoy these personally. Sure, some levels are really difficult to do the time trials for, like High Time, but for the most part they're an enjoyable challenge, and you only need at least the gold to complete the game, so the platinum is kind of just like an added challenge. And when you get relics, you unlock the bonus area, which includes pathways to previous levels for color gems or hidden boxes or entirely new levels. And there are 2 secret levels, both in World 3, which are in weird spots and have new gimmicks which some like and others hate, but I think they're fine. The music is a lot more diverse, with new instruments and musical styles to fit the time periods, and there are plenty of very catchy tunes, though I still slightly prefer 2's soundtrack. And the bosses are back as well, and all of them are a lot of fun, very well designed, very dynamic, and they feature great set pieces. Definitely the best lineup of boss fights in the original trilogy, blowing the other 2 games straight out of the water. Crash Bandicoot Warped or Crash 3 is another fantastic platformer that continued the trend of really good Crash games, and it is still my personal favorite. It holds a special place in my little nostalgic heart. But it's not just nostalgia, it's also the fact that this game adds so much from Cortex Strikes Back, as well as still having many of the same positives as that game. So Crash Bandicoot 3 gets a 9.2 out of 10. And that was my review of the Crash Original Trilogy. I want to know your thoughts on each individual game, so please go ahead and tell me in the comments below. I really hope you enjoyed it, and make sure to rate, comment, and subscribe. Check out my other videos. Also, make sure to check out my supporters, all that great stuff, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out.